There's familiarity in this strangeness. Like a song, half remembered, a tune without words to carry it. I know you, and yet I don't.
You will soon, little one.
Who are you talking to?
Just an echo in the mist. A possibility.
Look around us. Your children would be trapped in the past, if not for me. Their worlds are carved from the jade that I gave purpose. I promised them a future. A century of progress cannot end this way. I'm not... Kantha's not just a spoke in some grand cosmic wheel.
Would a great innovator give up so easily on that promised future?
I won't. I'll find a way to save us all. The future is out there. What are we waiting for?
Hey guys, it's currently 9:30 at night. It's the end of a really long day in which a lot of stuff's gone on. I suppose you can call this video an End of Dragons daily, but really it's a bit more of a VOD in which I want to review and reflect on the big one. That's the End of Dragons sneak peek, first appearance, a big show that they've done to open up pre-purchases and really give us a lot of details about the expansion. This is the big moment that you can compare to when Colin came out on stage to talk about the Druid and the Mastery system and Elite Specs with Heart of Thorns. It's the same as with POF, where we heard all about mounts and so on. And as well, I think it's comparable to the much worse received announcement of the Icebrood Saga. So I kind of wanted to do a little review here because, yeah, I've just done 5 hours of coverage of the event. You will see a big VOD go up on the main channel of me and Boots chatting about pretty much everything. But I figured doing something a little bit more encapsulated might be nice. This is also kind of really badly timed, this event at the moment, because I'm away tomorrow. Like, not at the house. I'm out overnight all day, so I'm not going to be able to, like, talk about or decompress any of this stuff. So, here's a TLDR of how the event went, some of my early takes and thoughts. You know, without thousands and thousands of people watching and responding. Our stream was huge, by the way. I think we peaked at, like, nearly 7,000 viewers, 6,000 viewers. We were number 2 on the Guild Wars 2 section, below just the official Guild Wars 2 stream itself, which did do a pre and post show, which obviously I would have loved to have officially been a part of, as I was with all the others. But, I mean, we had such an epic, huge turnout. You guys were amazing today that, you know, it really doesn't matter in the end. I think we all got to enjoy the stream in a great way. And, in fact, I kind of preferred this to some of the other shows that I've done before, in which you don't get my real live take. You only get me kind of in the post show section. Anyway, so, yeah, let's review what happened first. There were leaks early in the day, just so that everyone knows. When you watch my VOD later on YouTube, you're not going to see chat or anything there. The reason for that is I turned it off, fearing people would come in, say, hey WP, have you seen the leaks? And then, you know, everything's spoiled. But basically, some of the media sites dumped the information too early. I think there was some Chinese information that came out as well very early. The entire trailer, I think, was unlisted on ArenaNet's, like, Guild Wars 2 channel page. And people just had watched the whole trailer and a lot of the big details, what the big features and stuff were, which I'm about to go into. So, yeah, that was a little bit awkward, a little bit weird. I didn't really know how to talk about it. But before long, you know, the show itself was going on. The pre-show was kind of split into 2 parts. First, just like a big, long recap of the Guild Wars 2 story, which is really commendable. I know a lot about, like, regurgitating the story information, writing that stuff into scripts and then reading them out, and it was really, really incredible to see an attempt at the entire goddamn game. And then there was another kind of section of the pre-show which I totally fell in love with, and funnily enough it was an art section, which usually I'm pretty meh about, but it was official ArenaNet time-lapse of how they made some of the concept art that we'll be looking at in loading screens and obviously inspired the environment artists and so on for the X-Pack. So you can see them, like, going into 3D modeling software to make a barrel, just so that they can take kind of a flat image of it to put it onto a 2D concept art piece. It was really incredible. And what really was beautiful about it was the whole time in the background, they were displaying the new soundtrack, the End of Dragons OST. It sounds incredible. Very, very reminiscent of Factions and Jeremy Soul's work from way back in 2006. But also, like, you can hear a lot of Path of Fire in there. You can hear a lot of Heart of Thorns in there. Like, it feels like Guild Wars 2. I don't know anything about music or how to describe music or how to create music, but what I can tell you is it felt perfectly familiar to all three products at the same time, and I think that was really, really badass. I'm just desperately hoping that ArenaNet puts it on their SoundCloud. You'll be hearing it in the background of lots of End of Dragons dailies to come. Trust me, it really is that great. So then the show itself started. Well, it began with the trailer that I just opened my video with here a second ago. You'll notice that it feels very familiar to the previous teaser that we'd had before. There's a lot happening there with new characters. I love this Asura that's on this like Magitech Dragon Jade, I think they call it, airship. I'm guessing those are the Aether Blades. One of the devs alluded to the idea that they probably are actually, and was looking at Mitrin there. I think that's probably the opening act of the story actually, with Aurene following the Aether Blades as they fly down. There's kind of this big idea, it seems, that really I couldn't have anticipated before the stream, that the story is about like new innovations and technology that's been created from like the Jade and the results of the devastation at the Harvest Temple and the Jade Wind from in Guild Wars 1. And, you know, that might end up, once the dragon threat is over, taking us into all kinds of weird places, which I'm now convinced is totally going to be to do with the mists. As nice as it wasn't actually a gameplay trailer, so there's not too much to talk about, but there were lots of little gameplay snippets being played as the stream went along. Largely, we were seeing footage of Xingji, though there were a few shots of Echo Vald in there, perhaps some minimal shots of Kaineng that maybe I can pick at. They really were very cagey about showing the Jade Sea in engine, but it does appear in a lot of concepts. The Harvest Temple itself appears in a ton of concepts, and they've released just an enormous amount of that stuff, like beautifully animated, especially on their main website, which I'll talk more about in a second. So the show itself lasted the greater part of an hour. The really key moments for me were these. First of all, at the end, Colin was on screen, and he was like given this big assurance that Guild Wars 2, this MMO, this game, is what ArenaNet really cares about, is really focusing on, is really going along with, and I think that that was desperately needed to be heard through all the uncertainty we've had ever since Living World Season 4. And when Season 4 ended and they clearly hadn't been working on expansion, and we had a weird mobile game trailer and the Diablo announcement probably knocked them into all the layoffs and the craziness from the Icebreed saga, it's just been a mess for years. And so I really look at this as like a course correction. It was very late in the stream, so hopefully a lot of people picked up and listened to that. Another big takeaway for me was actually an announcement of strike missions. Like, strike missions got a whole section in the show where what it really looks like is the studio does have a focus going forward for hardcore, difficult, challenging end game content. And they didn't say raids. I think a lot of people will look at that and they say, oh, there aren't any raids confirmed, so they're not catering to the hardcores. I think they are. I think they're doing it in strikes, and I have said it over and over and over again on my channel. I think strikes are a brilliant format. People who played them in the Icebreed saga just don't realize it because the devs never made any with really great tuning or really, really interesting mechanics. But the idea that they can distill that whole bossing experience down to the bosses and without any other frills and pomp, so that they can actually put a lot in, I think is brilliant. Is one of my dream things to have heard them talk about, and it had a big section on this show, so I was really, really thrilled with that. And their announcement of like strike mission CMs and so on, about bringing story bosses back as strikes. There's a little bit of concept art on the main page. They didn't talk about existing Guild Wars 2 stuff, they only kind of talked about End of Dragon stuff, but I have to believe if they're doing strikes, the idea of like a Zaitan strike and all that is on the table, and fingers crossed one day maybe we're on our course towards there. So probably the biggest ticket item, I'll probably put the title of this video as it actually, is the big feature for this X-Pack. What is it? A lot of us went into this hoping it would be like really expanded elite specializations that use underwater weapons or mess with the main hand offhand setup, stuff like that. None of that is happening with End of Dragons. A lot of us went into it hoping for a new player experience, maybe new leveling available through the package of a new playable race, like the Tengu. Even if it's broken down and it doesn't have backwards compatibility with old story, even if it has limited armor skins and stuff, just that new player injection feature, I think a lot of us were hoping out for. That isn't coming either. They've said absolutely nothing about the Tengu. They've seemed very evasive on it, and not in kind of a wry, oh, we're hinting for later way, as in a kind of please don't ask us about Tengu kind of way. I, coming out of this stream, do not believe that there's a remote possibility of playable Tengu for End of Dragons. I could sit here for the next 6 months and tell you guys there's a chance and they're hiding it like the Griffin and blah, 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 blah. But I don't believe in it. It was a great idea, and if maybe the expansion had a wider scope, then it could have been there. But I really think it's a bit of a pointless conversation at this point. It's sad that it's become a pointless conversation, but that's what it is. So what is the big feature that they're doing, you might be wondering? Heart of Thorns did so much groundwork with elite specs, with the guild system, with masteries themselves. Path of Fire went crazy and did the best mounts you'll find in any game, not just MMO, any game. What's End of Dragon's big headlining thing? Well, it's fishing, which is clearly a feature we've been talking about a lot. And it's clearly a feature a lot of people like. It's kind of a casual-oriented feature. And casual doesn't mean it's good for new players, by the way. It just means it's kind of more of a hands-off, easygoing, social kind of feature, which I wonder whether that is actually the hemisphere of the user base that Guild Wars 2 really, really needs to focus on with End of Dragons. I think the biggest problem with Guild Wars 2 right now is people in other MMOs don't take it seriously. And the idea that fishing is their big thing, I don't know whether it really addresses that problem. Now, they popped it up as well with the idea that there are like little boats that you can ride around on, and these will be tied to the mastery system, and there'll be these big collections. One of the key points about fishing is that you can actually go back to core tier areas and it will spread people out. So it looks like it's hit all the beats that I wanted. I just don't know whether I really view this headliner feature as big or transformative as, say, Mountswear or the Heart of Thorn stuff. And, you know, I think there's very fair arguments to be said to say, well, look, Guild Wars 2's kind of already explored those really, really big things. Of course, the big features are going to get a little bit more narrow. And maybe they'll blow our socks off with fishing as well. There's a lot of details. They've given, like, some hints at, like, there being hundreds of fish to get, and some of them are rare. And there's been little shots in some of the footage that you can see of people actually doing the fishing. So I think for some people, they'll be very excited. I actually polled the community live on stream. We did 1 billion polls. And again, if you watch the VOD, you'll see this. Again, people's just general feedback, and fishing kind of wasn't that high, I think, for a lot of people. Another kind of dour point of the stream was, I think, the result of some miscommunication. So if you guys remember a few months ago, the dev said there's going to be a whole new generation of legendary weapons, Generation 3. And so then we all got excited thinking about what they would be. As this stream comes along, it looks like we're getting all the legendaries at once, but what they're actually doing with Gen 3 is they all look the same. They're all one set. So it's a set of legendary weapons that are all themed after Aurene. And it's like a Black Lion weapon collection. They all fit into that same aesthetic. They all probably have the same unsheaths. They all probably have the same footsteps. They all have the same wrist effects and so on. It's just you can pick any of the 16, which I actually think in general is a step up from the current world that we live in, where, you know, the incinerator could have been a whole set of incinerators, but they just went with one, so maybe they're missing a bit of potential. Once we get the Aurene set, if there's confirmation that very quickly off the back of that, there'll be another new set, you know, that maybe instead of being crystalline and shiny is, you know, some kind of more realistic military thing or whatever aesthetic people like. If they confirm that's how just legendaries will go in the future, I do see Generation 3 as a great move. But the way it was kind of all presented across the stream is it sounded like the whole generation was just all going to look the same, and it just kind of looked like the studio was cutting corners, and that some of the previous communications they'd given us were a little bit deceptive and weird. So yeah, I think that was a bit of a dud for a lot of people, unfortunately. We'll return to that topic very soon, I think. Another big moment was the announcement of a new mount. End of Dragons will have one. It might have multiple. They haven't revealed all the masteries, but my guess is there'll only be one. And they did go with the best choice, I think. They went with the Siege Turtle. Very iconic. And one of the things many of us have been asking for, well, what can you do with a terrestrial mount at this point? Well, it's a cooperative mount. It's a 2-man mount. And they even said very clearly that it can move fast, like you've seen them sprinting. So I think a lot of people have the impression that the Siege Turtle won't be as fun as it maybe is, actually, because they think it will just be like a slow lumbering way of getting around the map, and you can AFK because you can be in it, but whatever. But actually, if it can move kind of fast, I really am excited to see what it does. They also said a lot of the expansion is filled with verticality and showed like some images of Echo Vald, and it does look very high. So I don't know what a turtle really is going to feel like in those sorts of environments, but it kind of acts like a Halo Warthog, if you will. One person's actually in a gunner seat. So not only is it the first co-op mount, but it's actually the first combat mount too. Like full-on fighting on the turtle. And this is something I've been excited and interested in for a long time. We even talked about Path of Fire raids having stuff like that. You know, you're on the back of a giant elephant or something, and a lot of the group is shooting away or doing stuff, while other people pilot, you know, a bit like a Spirit Run from the Forsaken Thicket. but propped up for the POF era. POF obviously never did any of that. It looks like End of Dragons can with the Siege Turtle, and it's an old iconic thing, very cool. The Juggernaut, kind of the equivalent of the Siege Turtle, was not mentioned on the stream at all. Just because they were kind of paired in Guild Wars 1, I don't think it means they have to be paired in Guild Wars 2. But I do think they might have something in Elite Specialization about that, which I'll come to in just a second. Finally, they kind of hinted at 2 more hidden masteries. Probably one of them is around this whole Magitech Jade thing, which seems to be a big theme and idea and construct of the new story. We'll just have to wait and see on that. It does look like this is the beginning of a press phase rather than the entire press phase, especially when it comes to like the Elite Spec beta information and so on. And Elite Spec, speaking of which, the Mesmer that was teased did have its own section. They did 1 Elite Spec on the stream. Now, I know a lot of people were disappointed by that. They thought, well, we want all of the Elite Specs. I think it's better to play the long game on this one, though. They will slowly filter them out. It was the Mesmer for this, and so it's called the Virtuoso. It's basically everything that Boots and I predicted it would be. It is clones have become blades that you shatter to immediately throw at people. It's a whole new set of F skills. It's a dagger, not a spear. As I said, that there really doesn't seem to be any of that spear kind of stuff going on. The one thing I would say about its design is it looks like it does a ton of damage, and it does basically nothing but damage. There's like no mobility. There's no quality of life really on anything. It's damage, damage, damage. The devs did suggest at one point that they were thinking of breaking the rules when it came to Elite Specs, so I'm still hoping for exciting things. And if what they've done with the Mesmer is any sign what they'll do with some of the other Elite Specs, I'm excited to find something very glassy and fun for Ellie whenever we inevitably get to that, because I'm kind of crying out for that at the moment. So they teased the next spec. If you look on screen here, it's going to be Necromancer. From this, we can clearly see it's a pistol. A lot of us were talking on the stream about the idea that it might be potions, some kind of alchemy, toxin kind of character. I think the color theme and stuff, again, matches this new idea of this new kind of Dragon Jade technology. And I think there's a blog post coming out very soon, which I'll do a video on when I get back from my trip, that talks about Dragon Jade, and that will pave the way for whatever they're doing with the Necromancer. And so there's going to be an Elite Spec beta. It's in 3 weeks. It's not far away at all. And in that beta, as long as I'm not mistaken, they said there's going to be 3 Elite Specs in it. So what that means, guys, is over this week, possibly, and towards next week, they'll give us the rest of the Mesmer information, like its traits and so on. They already demoed all the skills. I think they found a really good balance, by the way, with Virtuoso. Getting just the key animations and cool stuff out there. They'll show us that, then they'll show us the Necro, then they'll show us a mystery third, and then we get to play them all. And then it will be 3 weeks where we get a bunch more, and then we play them all, and then again. And I think that's a really good format to wind down the rest of the year. They even say that the Siege Turtle is going to be available in one of those betas, and suggest that there'll be like PvP betas and stuff. Should be pretty fun. So that's all the main stuff. Finally, I do want to point out, guys, that beyond the stream, one of the biggest, most exciting things that they had going on was actually on their main website, where you can browse through all this incredibly beautifully animated stuff. I've probably been browsing through it as background footage for you guys here. Really incredible, and as well, you can kind of glean more information about some of the features. You can have a little hint at one of the strike mission bosses. You can see the icons for all of the Elite Specs. So we spent a good time on the stream guessing at what spec might be what. This is where I think that there might be like a ninja for the thief. There might be like a samurai thing for the warrior. And if I'm getting them all right, I think that they might be doing a Juggernaut style thing for the Guardian, which would mean you get the Siege Turtle mount and the Guardian has actually become Juggernauts as their Elite Spec. So both may actually be in the X-Pack. So that's it, really. They have some beautiful mocap, lots of really astounding, lovely footage. I'll be compiling it all and saving it all for my local libraries, and we'll go through all the concept art, all the music, all the fun stuff, dedicated spotlight episodes. End of Dragons Daily is going to be really fun over the upcoming days. I hope you guys enjoyed my coverage running into this, the 5 hours that I did today, the little review here, and I'll keep bombing you guys with stuff as the week goes along. This is really it. This is time for us to hopefully have fun and get enthusiastic about this X-Pack and a new era for Guild Wars 2. So thanks, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I would be remiss if I didn't point out that they did open up pre-purchase as well, so you can buy it already. I don't know whether I recommend Ultimate. I've never recommended Ultimate, I don't think. I don't know whether I recommend Elite or whatever, but it does look like pretty good value for money for just the base game. If you know you're a fan, you'll pick it up. Don't forget that there is a link in the description. If you go to the store page through that, it will actually support me and my channel in a big way as well. It's been, what, 3-4 years since we last got to do this with Path of Fire, so please do consider it. And also, by the way, if you're getting to this video in a few days from now, or you're just super enthusiastic and you already bought it on your own, you can click the link anyway later, and it will know that you wanted to support this channel. So thanks, guys. I'm really sorry to be away tomorrow, but hopefully the 5-hour stream will be somewhat entertaining to you. It's a bit off the cuff. It's a bit impromptu. You may have to do a bit of track bar skipping around. I'll try and put chapters on there. But yeah, that's my general takes of the day. I would say it was leaps and bounds ahead of the Icebreed Saga announcement, and about on par with the other 2 X-Back announcements. But overall, the expansion itself feels a little bit less ambitious than those. That might be a good thing, though, because it might be the things that they are going for. They do really, really, really well. Let me know what you guys think down below. I already did so much polling and community response today, but I'm eager for more. And I'll see you as soon as possible. Take care now, guys, and have a great evening.